Okay, welcome back then. Clip 5 is geographical skills questions. There aren't many of these, and it varies as to what they're actually going to ask you to do. Sometimes there is a resource, sometimes there isn't a resource, but I've managed to pick out a few examples of what is purely a skills-based question. This one here, which is from component 1, tells you at the top to analyse the data in figure 2. What you've actually got, if you read the scales very, very carefully, is 2 line graphs. They're a line graph over time, and they're trying to show you temperatures, okay? Temperatures and atmospheric CO2 concentrations in Antarctica. And they've labelled it in red, okay? Now, what they actually want you to do here is pure skills. Describe the trends in Antarctic temperature and CO2 concentration as shown in figure 2. A trend is where, really, where does the graph start? Where does the graph end? And can you see the sort of big patterns? Big pattern, it's going down. Big pattern, it's going up. Big pattern, it's going down. Big pattern, it's going up. That's the trend on the graph. It then says, use numerical data in your answer. What that is actually directing you to do, they want you to quote the units. They want you to quote the years. They want you to actually quote the amounts when you're putting in, it started at this, it went down to this. So, again, these really are kind of question styles where you must make sure that you're being very, very precise. Use the data, use the amounts. Describe the trends. Do not explain, okay? Do not explain. It wants pure description. If it said compare, then what you'd also have to do is sort of try and link the 2 lines together. But there are, really, you haven't even got to have studied Antarctica or temperature or CO2 levels. That could be a graph about absolutely anything. Describe the trends, okay? Nice and easy. Now the second one that I found on page 14 is not obviously directly a skills question, but it is asking you about skills. It's a lot less obvious. We've already done this one in previous clips about ratio. That was a numeracy question. It's still about this table. Describe another data presentation technique which could be used to show the changing rural and urban populations as shown in that table. Now this is kind of examiner code for, can you describe another type of graph that could be used to show that information? That's all data presentation technique says. Okay, that's all that it means. Now if I've got 2 sets of information there, I'm automatically thinking, well, the obvious thing for me is do a bar graph, or possibly over time a line graph. Whatever, and they're quite lenient with this. When you read the mark scheme, there won't just be one graphical technique you could use. There'll be 3 or 4 different graphical techniques you could use. Okay? If I just write, let's say I went for line graph. If I just wrote that on its own, and that seems to me the obvious answer because it's over time, although I could do a bar graph if the timelines were labelled clearly, I'm not going to get 2 marks. So what I've then got to think of is going into a bit more detail, describing a bit further perhaps what my graph would look like. So I might be talking about what's along both axes. In a line graph, I would obviously have time across the bottom, and then I'd have the figures, the population in millions at the sides. That would then pick up for me my second mark. Again, there's no real sort of geographical knowledge involved in this question. It is purely skills based. Last one, unusual one on a global issues exam paper. They decided to put Sunderland in. One would have hoped they'd have been a little bit more adventurous in their choice of place here, but never mind, they've obviously been sponsored by Sunderland Tourist Board or something ridiculous. But we have a photograph. Okay, we've got a sort of satellite image of various parts of Sunderland that are labelled, CBD, etc, etc. And there's a skills question about land use that you've actually got to do with it. Okay, the other skills question really is describe the location. Describe the location of the CBD as shown in figure 6. 3 marks. There was a multi-choice about land use that you had to do previously. If you've read the key, there's the CBD. Okay, if I was trying to describe the location for 3 marks, I want 3 simple geographical statements about where it is. What's obvious? Well, it's located, think about where it is. It's located south of the river. Use your compass, use your scale, use whatever is on this map. Clearly that's a river. Clearly that's the sea. How do I know it's a sea? Well, that bit there gives it away. That looks like a beach. I may not know where Sunderland is, of course. Okay? But if I'm describing the location of the CBD, I've got to come up with 3 simple statements. Keep them separate if it helps you, about where it is. It is located near the mouth of the river. It is located south of the river. Okay? It is located less than 500 kilometres away from the sea. I'm describing the location. That's all I've got to do. That could be a map of anything. Describe the location of something means tell me where it is. Distribution is a slightly different word that will come up on skills, and we'll perhaps touch upon that on another question.